I'm Nikita. I'm one of the co-founders of Bramework.
Oh, and I'm Andy. I know you see me in all the emails, videos, co-founder, CEO. So your first time speaking to me, it's nice to meet you.
Today we wanted to have like a more relaxed Zoom call. We want to just anyone who needs to vent or have some helpful tips or anything that you want to talk about regarding the last Google update that has affected a lot of bloggers and website owners across America, probably across the world if you get a lot of your traffic from America. So that's what it is today. It's nothing too stuffy. It's just we're here to kind of like help everybody out, and in turn, if you have anything that you would like to help us out with, feel free to join us and raise your hand. All right, so the first thing we kind of want to talk about is like the impact that the Google update has had with a lot of bloggers online. And I've been kind of looking through different Facebook groups, watching YouTube videos, trying to like gauge what's going on. And believe it or not, between like 50 to 80% of people's websites have been drastically affected by Google. So if you're feeling like you were the one who's the only one website that has been affected, you are not the only one. You have anything that you've been seeing?
I guess it's been very inconsistent. I guess because right now with everything that's happening, there's no clear answer from Google. Of course, like there's a lot of speculation. People are saying it's AI generated content. It's not AI generated content. Because me personally, as I've seen sites, even sites that I worked on where the content is 100% is human written, but yet the website was impacted significantly, and where I've seen sites that maybe started months ago, and the site is mainly AI generated content, and the site it was not impacted. But I guess one of the biggest things that we did notice is that right now the SERPs are showing more of the user generated content, meaning from websites like Reddit, Twitter, even like user generated content from YouTube. So and unfortunately, sometimes if you're searching for something that's very important, and you want a thorough understanding of that topic, going to Reddit and getting 2 or 3 lines of from a thread is not sufficient. So, right now it's uncertain, it's unknown. There's a lot of speculations, as usual. So that's the best thing I could say for now.
And if you're just joining today, like we mentioned earlier, this is kind of like a relaxed Zoom webinar that for you to join in, to vent if you have to vent, to give tips to other people, and kind of anything that you have been noticing online, whether it has been working or not working. Everybody knows that this is supposed to be a helpful update content from Google, but from my perspective, just as a regular user of Google, not Googling anything related to our blogs or our business, but just stuff just every day, it has been a struggle to find like the right type of content, because you have to go through so much at the top, like he was saying, not only ads, but you have videos, you have TikTok videos up there now, LinkedIn posts, and like he was saying, Reddit posts. So to get to, for me, when I'm Googling something, especially when I need something for like planning a trip or some type of illness or ailment, like how you Google things, usually I would get like a really good blogger's perspective. And then I could go from my search from there. But right now it's been very hard. And what we've been noticing in the online forums regarding the update is that most of the older sites, you said about 8 years plus, some have said that they haven't had much of a change in the algorithm update, but some have. So there are people on both sides that say if your site is over like 8 years old, then you have more authority than the sites with 2 to 5 years old. But the thing about it is there is a lot of speculation online. Unfortunately, that's all it is speculation. And it's frustrating because no one knows what to do from the speculation, at least from my perspective. What about yours?
I guess right now, I guess my advice would be just to stay the course. don't change anything because nobody really knows what to change per se. Because I've heard so many different, where businesses, I've heard a thing where people said that if your homepage is your blog content that impacts you, so you need to have a static page like a main homepage, and then have your blog separate, which I've heard. So I would say to stay the course, focus on creating high quality content, that helps readers, that answer questions, AI generated or non-AI generated, because from what Google said, is that if the AI generated content is not impacted, is helpful content. Now, even though like they say they said helpful content, but we're not exactly sure what helpful content is at this point, because I've seen a lot of unhelpful content show up in the top of the SERPs right now. So who knows what's going to happen in the next week or 3 months, but I'll say to stay the course. I know there's a lot of panic out there right now, but just stay the course, and I know most of us are. I'm working to monetize our blog, and I know as our finances are being impacted significantly if you've seen your traffic drop 50, 60, 70%. But again, like do your best to stay your course, stay positive, stay focused. Don't make any drastic changes unless you're, I'll say 70 or more % sure. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. One of the things I like to say, like if you want to do an audit, because there will be people out there saying that they will audit your site. One of the things I've always done over the years is I would get like a friend or a family member to just go on my website from the homepage. I don't lead them. I just follow them and I see where they go. Because sometimes when we're too into our websites, we know where to find everything. And so I like to look at somebody when they come to the homepage, what's the first thing they do? And sometimes it'd be pages or blog posts that you forgot about, or you're like, oh yeah, I was going to update that. Then you realize they get on there and then they're kind of stuck. When you see them stuck somewhere trying to figure it out, that's when you start taking notes. And then I let them kind of run their course through the website. And then I'll ask them, when you went on this page, why did you stop right here? And that's like a self-audit I do outside of if you want to hire like a professional person. So that's one of the things I do. One of the things also that you want to think about is not forgetting to make sure, because you are an expert in whatever your blog is, you are an expert, and making sure that something as simple as having like an authorship either at the top of your blog post or at the bottom of your blog post that kind of comes after every blog post that shows your credentials. It could be, I am John. You don't have to say I am. You say John is a 10-year tax attorney who loves, those blog posts, those authorships that tells you a little bit about the person, but still gives you the keywords of whatever you're talking about. So for me, I'm in a theme park. So I'll say like, I'm a theme park fanatic. I love all things Disney. You can find me on my podcast, YouTube, and I'm also a contributor to, and you can say like, if you contribute to something like USA Today, something to kind of like establish yourself so that Google knows that this is what you do. That's just a quick, easy win you could do. Those two are quick, easy wins you can do. Get someone that's close to you just to kind of go through your website. You don't guide them. You just overlook their shoulders and see where they're going. And then adding authorship to the bottom of your blog post. Those are just 2 quick wins for you.
Cool. Okay. So do we want to?
Anybody want to join in? If you can say what you've been experiencing, and remember, this is a safe space. You don't have to feel pressured to come up or here to talk, but if you have any tips that you can give someone or anything you've been noticing or reading online, we're all here to help each other, even to help us, because we're all here.
Yep. Yeah, so if you want to unmute yourself and just raise your hand and unmute yourself, and then we can, you can share or ask any questions, and we can go from there.
Hey, I am Candace. Nice to meet you all. Good to see you all, Nikita and Andy. I have a question. So as a newer blogger, it can seem a little, I guess, like overwhelming and wondering, like, is it too late for newer bloggers to show up on the scene because of all of the changes, with AI and then the Google update And then there's a million other bloggers. So I guess in general, I know that that's a question that newer bloggers are asking. Would love to hear y'all's thoughts on that.
I don't think it's too late for a newer blogger. I think your approach has to be more of a structuring as a blog business than just thinking of it as just being a blogger. You know, before you would just think about, okay, I want to blog about my passion, and then you just go in there and you write articles. But now you have to be really strategic and thinking about, okay, what is the purpose of this blog? What am I going to do to make money? And it just can't be from traffic. It can be from what kind of products do I want to get in the future? What are the steps of me building my audience and my authoritativeness throughout the web? Will I be writing books? Will I be doing speaking gigs? Will I be establishing a YouTube channel to run along my blog to establish me as a big business and company? So it's no longer just reliant on how many blog posts am I going to get out. It's like, what is the overall big vision that you want to have for your blog? If you are an expert in gardening, then you want to be the best expert in gardening. Your website is just the start. After your website, you want to make sure that people, when they talk about gardening, they think about your website, they think about your brand, they see you on TikTok, they see you on YouTube, you show up to conventions for gardeners. So that's how you have to think about it. So I don't think it's too late. I just think the approach has to be differently now.
Awesome.
Great question. Great question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anything to say? Or anyone else have any tips they want to add for anyone who's new that want to get into blogging and feeling like, oh my God, how am I gonna catch up?
Yeah, so anyone can go ahead and, if you want to chat, just unmute yourself.
Or if you have an additional question or anything, we can.
So I see a question here. I just keep hearing about the changes, but don't know what they are. Can you give me the lowlights?
These are lowlights.
Let's see here.
So we did kind of mention it earlier when you were talking about what Google is looking for in websites. They're looking for helpful content. And because we're not Google, their interpretation of what helpful is you kind of have to, you read what they say, but there's a lot left out. That's why everybody's kind of like all over the place right now. I know that most of the blogs that I read, from intermediate to like pro bloggers, I'm satisfied with the content. Of course, everyone can always improve, but for me to say exactly what Google feels like is helpful, it's hard for me to say that, because you sharing your experience, your personal experience of something that you're writing about, you showing the pictures of you sharing that experience, you're giving tips and advice. Like if you are out there and you're writing a blog post and you're saying, I gave it all, I answered the questions, I feel like that's helpful, because that has helped me for helpful content. But sometimes when you have artificial intelligence comes into play, you don't know if your website just kind of gets dinged, and what was the ding, because nobody tells us. And it's unfortunate in times like this that a company like Google is quiet. One of the things I do recommend is, if you are searching for something on Google, especially if it's something that you need help for in real life outside your blog, and you find the results are not what you need to, they're not helping you, they do have a feedback option on there where you can send them a feedback of why you didn't have a good experience using that search engine, searching for that specific keyword or term. So that's what I do sometimes if I can't find it and I know somebody has wrote something on it, it's buried. So that's like a good thing for you to do.
So there's a follow-up question. Are the changes also impacting technical SEO techniques, like using FAQ schemes on your blog posts? I guess it's kind of, I wouldn't say yeah or nay, because it's a very good question.
I think it's good to still practice technical SEO just to be found, because Google isn't the only search engine there. And it's just best practice, because for me, some of the tips that come from technical SEO, it made us better bloggers. It made us be able to organize our thoughts, because before there was like criteria for SEO techniques. Our blog posts would just be all over the place. We would have paragraphs like bunched up. There was no kind of flow to a paragraph. So you would get on the blog, you would just kind of like look at it, but bounce out. But now I think it is good to just have that like structurally, but it's also about just making sure when a person lands on your article and they're looking for how to make the best chocolate chip cookie, okay, when they see that introductory paragraph, am I on the right place? Does this introductory paragraph say, hey, if you're looking for the best recipe for chocolate chip cookies, you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to share with you my famous recipe from my grandmother. That's your intro, and then you get into it. And throughout it, if you see that, okay, you are competing with someone else, because obviously there are other blog posts on that topic, you just give your own little nuance and little tips that someone else is not mentioning online. I don't know how much better it could get from that, because you want to have technical SEO, but you don't want to like overdo it. As far as like, overdoing this when you start stuffing things and overly doing it, but you want to make sure your SEO is there to kind of help structure your blog post, not only for you, but for the reader and for the Google bots or any kind of other search engine bots that's going through. And after you know how to do your technical SEO, then that's where you make sure that you're telling your story the right way, that you're giving the helpful advice, the helpful tips the best way you can. And at the end of the day, you have to remember that, yes, this is your blog. And if you know you did the best you could, then that's all you can do. After that, after you have written your blog post, which is the beginning of your blog business, because this is a business. You have it out there. Now you spread it to your social media. You take that blog post, you break it down into Facebook posts, you break it down to Twitter, into X, Instagram post with a nice image from your blog. You can make a TikTok taking that blog post. And if you have the 10 best chocolate chip recipes, you can make that into little reels. Each tip, like tip 1 is 1 reel, tip 2 is 1 reel. And you can change that and make it into a TikTok, a Pinterest ideal. You can do it into a YouTube short. It's like taking that blog post and making it live forever, and never just writing it and then move on. Like this blog post is your product. And unfortunately, Google doesn't care that people put a lot of care into their blog posts, but it's up to you to say, okay, I have to look beyond Google now. I have to look beyond Google, and what's the bigger vision for my blog business, because that's what it is. But yeah, technical SEO is good. I don't think it's gotta ever be like a wrong thing, as long as you're doing the best practices. But it's just, like I said, looking beyond and saying, okay, this is where I am and this is where I'm headed with my blog business in the future.
Yeah, and I guess I would like to add, it's one of the things I heard was that, with the latest updates in the algorithm, is like it's a Google is identifying blog posts that are over SEO'd, which I didn't know that term existed, but like if you have too many keywords or too many of the same keywords, or you're doing keyword stuffing and things like that, they're penalizing those types of articles. So again, it's focusing on is answering the question that the user found your blog post, or the reader found your blog post, and make sure that when they're done reading your blog post, they feel satisfied and completely satisfied with your article. So if you focus on that, and I think in the long run you'll win. And also is diversifying your traffic and also repurposing that blog post, like Nikita said, and that will also build your authority. If you have your content all over social media and things like that. So
yeah, definitely look into diversifying your traffic. And I do this personally through Pinterest. Pinterest it took a big hit too with bloggers a few years ago, but I always just made Pinterest like another option for traffic. It wasn't my biggest, but I also made sure that I just devoted a little bit of time to it each month to make sure my blog posts were getting scheduled on Pinterest. You can hire a Pinterest manager, or you can take a Pinterest course. I think there's one called Pinterest Avalanche, and then there's a lady named Allison Lancaster. She does Pinterest management and she does web story management. And Web stories are another good place. A lot of this stuff like Pinterest and web stories, they take time, but when they hit, and you'll have kind of like those evergreen contents on those platforms. I also say don't sleep on putting your blog post links in your stories on Instagram. If you have people who know you by a certain thing on Instagram, when you're sharing your stories, say you're out, going back to the chocolate chip cookie recipe. If you're home and you're going through, you're getting all your ingredients together, you're like, yeah, I'm here trying to make this recipe. And then you put that link to that blog post in your stories. And then also another good place I like is if you are on YouTube community posts. I treat YouTube community posts as if it's my social media post. So outside of just videos, when I am scheduling my social media posts for the month, I make sure I include YouTube social media community posts as a part of that scheduling process. So I'll put like a, kind of like when you're scheduling your social media, I'll put like a little 1-sentence thing. I'll put a link to my blog post, and I might put an image from the blog post on YouTube, and I'll schedule it because YouTube allows you to schedule your community posts. So those are just great ways for you to schedule and repurpose your blog posts. And don't, we might not love TikTok, but TikTok is really generous with sharing your content right now. So if you want a place where you can start to kind of grow quickly, the only thing with TikTok, it's kind of hard to get like a loyal following. I feel like YouTube is more of a loyal following area, but TikTok is good for, you just want to build your brand awareness. And let's not forget about email, which a lot of people sleep on email. We all have been told as bloggers forever to build that email list. And that's what you want to do, because I think Matt Moen, he created a course called Email Autopilot, which you basically take all of your blog posts that are in like a certain category and you make it, he called it the Forever series. That way you always have an email going out each week. And that way, on a certain day, this email goes out. If I have, I don't know, say you have 1,000 people on your email list or 10,000, if you have that 10,000, maybe half click on that email that you sent, you're going to automatically get 5,000 people to your blog that day. So it's like we have to think outside of Google and get creative with that. And I think if you look up Forever series with Matt Moen, I think it's Moening, he has Email Autopilot. That course, it changed everything I knew about email, and it didn't make it so daunting. So like when things like a Google hit comes, I know I still have a traffic source coming from somewhere that I can depend on.
Great advice. So any other questions? Anybody else wanted to join in? You can drop a question in the chat, or you can unmute yourself if you want to share your experiences so far with this latest update. So any other thoughts? Don't be shy. We're all friends here. Oh, okay. Esther Khalil, say thanks. I am driving.
She wanted the email. Okay, well, I can go over some tips if you want to go over some tips. And so, like, if you have questions, just feel free to ask them in the middle of us talking. Because like I said, this is a safe space. This is not formal. This is just for us to kind of get on, vent, talk about what's going on. Like, you can scream, just get it out. We're here for you. So we did talk about doing like, you want to do like talk about the technical site audit.
So as far as your technical SEO, I guess site speed is important. Make sure your images are not too large. Use JPEG images when possible. Make sure that there's no broken links. Make sure that you have a cache plugin in your WordPress if you're using is your WordPress. It's very important that your website is mobile friendly. So whatever theme you use, make sure that it's mobile friendly. And when you post something on your blog, is always check it on your desktop, of course, and always check it on your mobile device as well, because that's very important. So what else?
Okay, we talked about EAT, which was another Google update, I think about 2 years ago, a year ago. So EAT is just basically you establishing yourself as the expert. That's why here at Bramework, we don't talk about just becoming like a blogger with high traffic. We talk about becoming the best blogger who has a blog business. We think about the whole image. That's why we say you want to establish your authority. And we were talking about a quick win earlier is by making sure that you have your authorship profile at the bottom of every blog post that you write, so that it kind of just solidifies who you are. So for me, like I mentioned earlier, I'm in the theme parks and travel. So I would make sure I mention something like I'm a theme park expert, Disney fan who has authored a book, and I put my book link. And if I've been on any kind of major publication, that's the time to kind of big up yourself. Because I know sometimes as a blogger, we feel weird, talking about our accomplishments and our goal. We like, you can meet a whole bunch of bloggers who are very successful, but you would never know their success because a lot of bloggers I meet are very humble. But sometimes in that authorship now with the Google thing, you have to kind of big up yourself so that Google knows, okay, this person is legit. Another thing with authorship is making sure that you have pages on social media that kind of interacts with your website. So when you are on your homepage of your website, at the bottom, does it have links to your social media? It could be at the bottom or the top, wherever you want, or wherever your theme has it placed. You want to make sure when it has those icons for the social media that you're linking to that social media that's correlated to that blog brand. Also, you want to add like a address. If you have a PO box, obviously you don't want to put your home address on there. But if you have a PO box that you can put at the bottom of that kind of goes across, what's it, like the standard page, it kind of goes across all the pages of your blog post. And if you have like a business phone number or a Google number that you can put, that's not your actual real phone number, but a number that somebody still can reach you at, you can put it there. That just sets up more authoritative. Lets Google know, okay, like they have a location, they got a phone number, they have your email, your general email to your website, like it'd be info@suchandsuch.com, have it there. And then you have your links to your social media. And in your social media, you're keeping up with it because you're scheduling your blog posts. That all talks to each other online. And then when you get into where you are doing YouTube videos, that's going to come up when someone's searching for you. They'll start seeing your YouTube videos in also when your website comes up at the same time. So it's just, we have to start looking beyond our blog. And this is kind of like the evolution of blogging right now. We're at that change where just having your one blog in the corner and your small corner of the internet, it's not working anymore. You have to kind of get out there and establish yourself as a branded blog business.
When you're internal linking, to make sure that you're internal linking to content that's relevant, like don't just internal link to internal link, but make sure that, those links are going to like a piece of content that relates, to that paragraph, that topic, because, that way a person can stay on your website.
I think that's very good what you said. Interlinking for me as a user, and I always try to go back to the user experience. I always think about the user experience when you are working on your blog, from every step of it, from putting a keyword in, how does your blog stand out in Google search? How does your title stand out? Will a user want to click on that title? And then sometimes if Google put like an image next to the title in Google, you have to think about YouTube. Does the title and the thumbnail match? And you have to think about that with your blog. And when they get on your website, when they come and they reading that intro, is the intro long-winded, or are you giving a short intro that's powerful, and then you get into the nice meaty content? And then you want to also make sure that when you are interlinking, if you mention you're talking about chocolate chip cookies, and then you mention some of the best milk, or I don't know, I'm not a baker, best sugar you use for your chocolate chip cookie. When you have them link out to that sugar, are they linking out to like a relevant blog post? It could be something that you wrote on the best sugar, top 10 best sugar, or it could be to a sugar product that you like. It could be an affiliate link, or it can be to a YouTube video that you've created on the best chocolate chip cookie recipes on your YouTube channel. So those are great ways to interlink your own product and your own blog post. I call blog post products because that's what they are, because we are a business and each blog post is a product. Also, during this time, it's important for you to start to go through your old content. A lot of times we're focused on new content. And when I was a new blogger, that's all I thought about is, did I get a blog post out this week? While the old blog posts were suffering. And I'm not going to lie, this update really made me like, you've been putting off updating that blog post. Because I would think, I'll just update those in 2024. I'll start fresh. And Google now is like, nope, you're not starting fresh. You need to. So it has forced me to sit down and stop doing new content, to focus on the old content and making sure that it's is great because, you know, as you learn new things as a blogger, your old content, you start to go back and look at it like, oh, I can't believe I did that. So it's important for you to, now that you know all of these new things as a blogger, because you're continuously learning, to go back to some of your old content. And that's when you start doing things like making sure your technical SEO is good, making sure that your intro paragraph is not too short, but it's not like drawn out, making sure that it looks good to the reader. They can go through your article, it flows, the imagery is good. You probably have got your photography skills have probably improved. So now you can change out the old content, the old photos, and put in new photos, spacing out those paragraphs so that somebody's on mobile doesn't have to squinch down and see like you put like 4 sentences together, you can't read it. So those are the things that you start to do. And now when you schedule out that, or not when you schedule, when you publish it with the new content, now you can say, okay, let me schedule this blog post out of social media on this day. And now you're getting the ball going. And if you one of them super bloggers, now you can make a YouTube video to correlate with that blog post that you just updated. And make sure in your YouTube description that you link to this blog post. So like if I did a video on YouTube about the 10 best chocolate chip recipes, I will make sure that my description in my YouTube video has a link back to my blog post article. If someone, because not everybody wants to read, they might watch the video, but they also want to go look at your recipe. So those are some things that you can do while you are getting through this Google update.
Okay, hold on. All right, so we're gonna go through an example. So I'm gonna share my screen real quick.
I have writers now, so I'm hoping I picked a good one. Because when you're running a blog business, you can't do it all. And as a blogger, sometimes at the beginning, it was like blasphemy to have writers on your blog. You're like, no, that's my work. But when you're trying to scale your blog business, you can still write. But in order for you to grow and you have all these amazing keywords and things you want to talk about, you have to hire writers. So the keyword here is what to wear to Halloween Horror Nights. And the first sentence, of course, best practice for SEO, technical SEO, is to make sure you have your keyword in the first sentence, but you want to make it as natural as possible. So this is saying, calling all the scariest ghouls and goblins. Are you trying to figure out what to wear to Halloween Horror Nights? Because a lot of people, if they're coming here, and you got to think about their reader or user intent. Like, okay, yeah, I am trying to figure out what to wear. So we do a little thing. We talk a little about what to expect at Halloween, but we try to condense it really quickly so that we can get to the point. And you see a lot of spacing. Your English teacher will probably go off on you, but I do this spacing because I think about the mobile user. If I tried to put all this in 2 paragraphs, it would not look good. And they just be like, oh my God, I'm just scrolling, because that's what most people do, they scroll. And so my website is image heavy because when people are getting ready to go to theme parks, they like to imagine that they're there. And so when they're thinking about going to Halloween Horror Nights, now this is something I probably could have put at the end, now that we have the Google update about getting tickets for Halloween Horror Nights, because they want to know what to wear, but this is just telling somebody how to get their tickets for Halloween Horror Nights. And then we get into what to wear. And so I break it down into women, and that's all I was saying, like technical SEO. It's just for stuff like this, like your headers. You want to make sure your headers are appropriate. And I think we have an article on Bramework about what are headers. And headers are basically, if you think about when you were in English class, you had to write an essay on a topic, you had to, the bullet points, you had your main bullet point, it might have been like I haven't been in school for a while. And that might be what to wear to Halloween Horror Nights. And then up under it, you might talk about what women can wear, what men can wear, what people who like to cosplay. And cosplay is a term that we talk about in theme park world, where you don't dress, you're not wearing a costume. Like say you wanted to dress like Beetlejuice for Halloween. You're not wearing a Beetlejuice costume, but you are wearing the colors that let people know you're dressing like Beetlejuice. So
let me add one thing as you get here. So like, you'll notice that Nikita has like pictures of her doing certain things. So like now when you create blog posts about, you're going back to the cookie you said topic, show you baking the cookie, show you buying the ingredients, because Google wants to see you actually experiencing and actually doing what you say that you're doing or talking about. So,
and me as a user, if I'm going to your website and you're talking about baking a cookie, and I'm like, I'm going to look at every photo to make sure I'm doing the right thing, especially if there's not a video to go with it. I'm going to like, oh, okay, step one, you're showing what step one looks like. And I'm pretty sure you do that, but I'm just saying just what my experience is. So this first section, we basically go through and talk about it. And this is something you can add when you're updating your old blog posts, is add like little graphics like this in Canva. I made this quickly in Canva. That kind of like takes it to the next level, especially if you're in a niche that the pictures kind of look very generic. It's not really many pictures you can take that are personalized. You can make little graphics like this in Canva, and people love sharing this on social media. They love, especially Pinterest. And you can do that to help kind of like spruce up your blog post. Most of you already know how to write it. It's not the writing that you need. It's just the little, little details to just spruce up things. But that's just it. And then as you can see, I always try to break up with headers. So if we start with H1 is your title, H2, we're in the H2 section, and we're talking about what women must wear. And then H3, it says my must-haves. And as you see, this H3, we're still talking about women, but it's like a subtopic of the women's section. And it's just letting you know more things you can wear. So it's like, these are just like some basic things you can do for your website. And it goes on, because then we get into men. And then at the end of it, let me scroll to the end so you can kind of know, because all we're doing is the men's section. I talk about the weather, because somebody's going in certain months. If they're going to September, what's the weather like in Florida in September? What's the weather like in October? And that's the kind of stuff you have to think about your reader. If they're coming here for the clothes, okay, at the beginning, I told them what to wear. Now at the end of the article, I'm telling them about the weather. And then I'm also going to give them tips for finding the best accessories for their outfit. And it's like just giving them everything so they don't need to go anywhere else. And then of course, at the end, because I'm kind of old school, I talk about Pinterest a lot. So I always have a Pinterest pin. That's just for me, so when I'm sharing on social media and I need the link to pull up something, like Pinterest has a plugin for your Chrome that you can like hover over. You don't have it on your website, on your computer, but I can hover over it. And this is for me to easily put it on Pinterest. And I'm moving with myself. I did my Pinterest check mark, and that's the end. And if I wanted to, and you see how I have my about me, you can make yours better, because there's like plugins for you. But you see how I say like what I've done. I tell you that my credentials, how long I've been here, and then I put like a call to action to like my social media that I'm trying to grow at the time. It might change. You might come here next time it's YouTube. I might be in a YouTube mode, but that's what it is. And then next year, I'm going to create a video on what to wear to Halloween Horror Nights. I'm going to create it earlier in the season, which for us in Florida is July. I'm going to create the video in July so that people who are thinking about going to Halloween Horror Nights in September and October, that video has had time to flourish on YouTube. And now I have a YouTube video and a blog to go together.
Any question?
Let me see.
Oh, let's make a couple of questions. All right. Our stock image is now being penalized. I tend to write about business topics, so it's not stuff you'd want to see pics of me.
So with business, and we have the same thing with Bramework's blog, is that we it's kind of tricky. We try to find very unique photos. So we do use stock photos on Bramework, and Bramework wasn't affected by the update. We use stock photos, but what we try to do with the stock photos is we try to make sure that they are telling what we're talking about in that particular section of the article. And also, like I said, we would do something like create like a nice infographic. So if I did something like this for Bramework, I'm trying to think of an example I could do. I might do something like if we did the 10 best, I don't know, WordPress themes. I might create an infographic like this, and I might have one with like an image of it, where I might do like take the logo or something, or a screenshot from their website or something familiar with that brand, and I might put it on there just to kind of break up the stock photo images that can kind of get monotonous.
yeah. Like even like I recently sent an email out yesterday that talked about this Google update. So, and what I did was I took a stock photo and then I added some things on top of it to give it a fresh look. So you can always take a stock photo, add a coloring layer over it, add some,
text.
Yeah. So like I took a lady that was sitting in front of a computer and I added a Google icon, some analytics images to give it a fresh look. And so that way it will tell the story of, what I'm talking about. So if you can't be in the picture, just make sure that all the images flow with the article.
And infographics for businesses are like, people love those. I've seen blog posts. I've seen blog posts with all H1 headings, others with H2. Can you mix them, for example, H1, H2? Well, you only can have like one H1 per article. Your H1 is your title.
Yep.
That's the H1. And so like what I like to, I'm going to try to, because it's easier for me to draw it. All right. So if you can see this, all right. So your H1 is the title. So my title would be Best Beaches in Florida. And then your H2 is going to be.
Can you? Oh, sorry.
Okay. So your H2, my H2 is Destin. My next H2 is going to be Daytona. So you'll see the title is telling you just best beaches. It might be 5 best beaches in Florida. My #1 best beach in Florida is Destin. That's always going to get an H2. My #2 is Daytona. But under Destin, I might talk about the best things to do in Destin. So I might have like a little paragraph right here where I'm just going over stuff in Destin. I might have a photo. And then under that, I'll have an H3 about the best things to do in Destin. And that's like how you get H3. It's kind of like making essays in class. I think we have an article. We have to put a link in there.
Somebody just asked that question to a blog post. So I'll share that in the link for you.
And then you just basically repeat. So another H2 is Daytona. And then under Daytona, I have an H2 that says best things to do in Daytona. I'm typing, I'm talking. So it basically goes H1 paragraph, H2 a paragraph, but you know, your paragraph can be broken up into multiple spaces with an image, and then you'll have an H3. You might have a little small paragraph, and you go into H2, which is Daytona. You do a little small paragraph, and then that might be another H3 that comes here, and you repeat it till you've written out your 5 best beaches. So that's how I look at H1, but you will only have one H1. That's the title of your article. She said she's used some AI tools. You say add more H1s.
Oh, yeah. If the AI tools tell you to add more H1s, then
you just search that online to get a double check, because you know, that's just the best practice I've used in the past, is because the H1 is just that just tells the Google bot, or it's not even just Google, but it tells the bot of any search engine, what is this article about? And here's the
yes, so I'm gonna share, I've just shared our article that we talked about, headings and subheadings. Because I'm 99.99% sure that you should only have one H1, and then you should go through the process of doing H2, H3, or H4 as needed.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because some topics you don't need to have you can have a blog post. Let's say like I wrote an article about 10 best laptops. So I can have a title, 10 best laptops, and then I add my intro paragraph, and then the H2 MacBook Pro, and then I write about MacBook Pro, and the next H2 is Google whatever, and then more paragraphs, and then another H2. So you can have an article that has all H2. You don't have to have H2, H3, H4s. It's just if in order to break the article so that way it makes more sense, and also on the Google bots, when they're going and indexing your article and seeing what it's about, it uses that schema to be able to figure out what this article is about and all the information that's in it. And even if you go into WordPress, if you go to the upper left-hand corner of WordPress, there's a table of contents or a subheading button that you can click, and it shows you the hierarchy of your blog post.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that was a tip that I never knew till he showed me.
Shit.
Yeah, so I hope it's not confusing. Just you can have just your title be H1 and use H2s. Just the only thing, because when you think about H3 and H4s, that's just when you are up under one section, which is an H2 section, and you just breaking it down even further.
Right.
But if you don't have much, like he's talking about the laptops, you talked about the MacBook. Okay, that's all. I don't have much to talk about, so I'm gonna go to the next thing. Yeah. So you may not need all that, but if you have one of them like really massive articles, that's when you'll see like where you might use more headers.
Yeah. So let's say like in this same article about the top 10 laptops, let's say for the MacBook, I wanted to talk about something in addition to the MacBook. So I can talk about, so I can say the MacBook will be the first H2, and then I can talk about, okay, best mouses for the mouse. I can talk about a mouse or mouse pads for the MacBook. Then, so I'm gonna put that on the H3. But again, like the purpose of it is to break up your article so that way it has a structure, and also like when Google's indexing it for the search engine, they can find it properly.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Anybody wanted to share, speak on anything? We have a few more minutes before we wrap it up. Did you guys find this useful? Anything that you think that we missed or didn't talk about?
Or we can talk about in the future later if you want to do more of these kind of like sessions, because this is for you guys. This is for you guys and for us to just kind of come together, because it's hard to find resources online where we just get together, talk about what we're doing on our blog, what's happening, get tips from other people.
Oh, thank you, Candace. She said it was very useful. Appreciate that. Thanks, Khalil. I hope I said your name right.
Well, at the end of the day, our overall message today is just like to be patient. And I know it's hard, especially you put like everything into your blog, but zoom out for a moment, take some days to breathe, go through some forums. You can go through forums, see what everybody's talking about, but take some days to breathe, come back to the drawing board and say, okay, where do I want to see my blog business in 5 years? Where do I see myself and my family in 5 years? What do I need to do to get there? And when you stay that laser focused and you have all these things going on for your business as a whole, not just Google, then when Google updates happen or not, they don't affect you. Because by that time, you have a team with you who's helping you strategize. You have products going, you have speaking engagements that you have to get to, all this kind of stuff where when Google happens, it's not so detrimental. So just think about where you want to be. Who are you trying to help? And just go at it.
If you have any questions, please follow up. If you want us to do more of these, once a month, we definitely can. And again, thank you for being part of Bramework, because I really appreciate it. And you guys have a good rest of your day.
All right, bye guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.